and he's moved into streaming video on the internet. But the company that he put together was oriented toward doing the kind of thing that YouTube has really become famous for. Well, this was back when YouTube
didn't exist, or already started.
It existed, but it was still a really nascent industry.
Well, it's always funny because, you know, Beta was a better videotape, and VHS took over. I mean, we can go on and on about the better one.
Anyway, well, I knew Ed, and Ed and I worked on this little project. It was an embedded system with video and internet. I mean, the internet's my background. I've got background in embedded systems, so things where the computer is hidden behind your money machine, or the average car's got 26 embedded computers in it.
I know.
It's amazing. I mean, it's amazing.
Well, the average new car, not mine.
Well, the average new car. Yours has got one or two.
I've got a 53 Chevy.
They mostly keep the car warm.
There's no computer in my 53 Chevy.
There is. There's an analog computer.
In my 53 Chevy?
There's an analog computer in your 53 Chevy. Absolutely. Now, you have to understand.
Are we talking about the distributor?
An analog computer can be a mechanical device.
Yeah, we're talking about the distributor.
Is an analog computer.
I understand. Okay. He thought he had me for a while there. Okay.
So we were doing an embedded video system for drink machines and vending machines and that kind of thing. That's kind of gone by the board. And one of these days, there'll be a story behind that one, and Susan and I will go on, we'll talk about that. But that's behind us right now. Anyway, along came David Hancock, and
with his request.
With his request, and I said, "Oh, well, yeah, okay. Is there internet on Hornby Island?" Well, I mean, I knew approximately where Hornby Island is, but it turned out...
He actually phoned me to get the phone number, your phone number that day.
Now he knows it by heart.
Well, I know, but that day he didn't, so he phoned me. You'd done work for him, but he didn't know your phone. He knew mine. He phoned me. I gave him your number.
Phone number. It hasn't changed since the first time I did any work for him, but...
I know, but you've only remember so many things in your life.
Oh, yes. Anyway, so he phoned, and I said, well, first of all, is there internet on Hornby Island? Because it's up there, not too far from Campbell River. Go north from Nanaimo and hang a right 2 islands. It is 3 ferries from Vancouver. 1 to Vancouver Island, 1 to Denman Island, and 1 to Hornby. 6 ferries in a day. There were many weeks I did that, or many months I did that every week, up and back the same day on the motorcycle to take new hard drives up there for archive of the video.
Oh, sure.
Because we actually
24 hours a day.
We didn't run it 24 hours a day. It could have. The camera did, but the archive, we cut it off at night because it was the discs were expensive. It was dark. Now we have the camera at the Orphan Wildlife range with an infrared on it. And you can see it all night, except when the spider web is in the way, which it is right now. Oh, no, we had a good wind. We had a good wind the other day. Hopefully the spider's been blown away again.
Let's just tell the audience if they happen to be watching. And if somebody's watching...
www.hancockwildlife.org.
Yes, and that you can go in and watch eagles in 2 different places, 3 different places.
Three different nests right now. I don't know whether we had a hatching today. There's supposed to be at least one of them hatch in the next day or two. There's 3 eggs in one nest and 2 in each of the other 2.
Okay.
And there are people all over the world watching these nests.
Yeah, but in the first nest on Hornby Island, you ended up with 40,000 people watching it continuously for almost 3 months.
Well,
4 months?
Actually, they watched the Hornby Island camera for about a month and a half, and those eggs didn't hatch. So one of them hatched, and it didn't last.
Yeah, and another one down to Sydney.
And David scrambled, and in a week, with me standing out in the field for about 5 days doing all the wiring and everything and getting it, we put a crane up beside a nest that already had 2 chicks hatched down in Sydney, BC. And the rest of the world watched these 2 eaglets.
So it's an old crane.
It's an old construction crane
that somebody donated.
That was donated by.
We should give, if you remember the company, we'll have to find out and give them credit. We'll make sure David remembers the name next week to give him credit.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
Okay. Can you name me another place where there's a derelict crane doing something like that?
Another place right now?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. I know there's a crane in a
Well,
that's got 2 cameras on it.
You know Christine.
I do, yes.
Last Friday night, she got off work early, so the phone. I said, well, let's go for dinner. So I picked her up a mountain highway, and we didn't know where we were going to go. You know where it is, Mitchell?
The one near off the Second Norris Bridge.
You got it.
Oh, of course.
With the sign.
It's got a sign on it. That's
yes.
right. Yeah.
So, and she's never noticed it, period.
Oh, no.
In her whole life, she's never noticed it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mitchell. I'm glad to know you're observant. Anyway, we were sitting outside the restaurant, the Marina Grill down there, which incidentally is owned, Susan's still sitting over there, is I believe owned by Lou Blair, who was the Lou Blair I mentioned with, you talked about Bruce Allen. It's a very small world as we wander around here.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there talking for a few minutes before we go in, and there's a tap on the window, and it's Gary Bannerman and Patricia Bannerman on their way in, too, on a spontaneous thing. So we went in, and Gary paid the bill. It was really cool.
Oh, well, that's always nice.
Best part.
We're going to have Gary on. He's working on a couple of projects. I talked to him yesterday, and he doesn't really want to come on until he's got something he can talk about.
Did you see, did I send you a copy of that thing I found on the internet about Gary?
No, I don't think so.
Maybe not. Okay, I've got to send you a copy of something I found. Okay. Anyway, making a long story short. Yep.
So
you got a crane.
We got a crane.
Scrambled
to put a camera on the top of this crane and raised it up and looked at these eaglets. And of course, the camera on the crane wasn't a pan tilt, it was on a pan tilt and it had a zoom lens on it and that sort of thing. But the crane was in the wrong spot, so we ended up having to swing the crane around, and it's because the camera wasn't quite vertical. The whole world was cockeyed to this nest. Everybody complained about the fact that the camera was on a tilt. Can't you fix that? No, we can't go back there now because the eaglets have hatched.
Disturb the eagles.
Can't disturb the eagles.
Can't disturb the nest.
And
that's why David saw stuff he'd never seen before, because there's a thing and you can't.
And now we have literally thousands of people who monitor these nests minute by minute and make scientific observations. We have people who have never been trained in biology, and they're doing these observations. David is taking these, and he's got students coming in this year who will be doing some scientific analysis on this. And, it morphed from something that just David was interested in to something that has taken on a life of its own. And David created the Hancock Wildlife Foundation. It's a not-for-profit foundation. There's donations. One of the things that I'm doing right now is I'm doing marketing. I'm going out and finding supporters and advertisers for the website, because we're getting I think it was 1.4 million page views in March, and we're trending toward 3 million for April. And these are page views by people who are interested in ecology, they're interested in the environment, they're interested in education. We have classes of children coming and watching these eagles on an ongoing basis. And
Richard, I've had 20 people at least send me a link to it because they have discovered it, and they send me a link to tell me about it.
Yeah.
And I think Susan
said the same thing.
She got one from somebody as well.
Oh, I just happen to know the guy that runs that.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But and it's funny because people send me links.
Yeah, well, sending you a link is
sending me a link. Okay, that's like Coles to Newcastle. Okay, yes, I do know about that one.
Yeah, that one we know about.
But, of course, my name's all over the website now, too. So if they've actually been to the website and read anything there, they usually
paid attention. But there could be another Richard Pitt. There's thousands of David Ingram.
Strangely enough, there is a Richard C. Pitt
the same
down in California. And you know what? He also deals with FilePro. FilePro is the database manager that David wrote his tax program in. We put your tax program together in for 12, 15 years.
No, I wrote it in 1983.
You wrote it in 1983.
The first time in 1983, and I stopped using it in 2002. The last year, all our files are in 2002 are in FilePro.
Anyway, so
I used it for 20 years exactly.
He has knowledge of FilePro.